Welcome to this explainer. We're going to skip the usual long intros today because we're jumping right into a crazy paradox that honestly affects pretty much anyone trying to do great work. So, for our entire lives, we've been told that striving for perfection is the ultimate virtue, right? Like it's supposedly this secret ingredient to success, the driving force for high achievers, the gold standard. But what if the exact trait we thought made us successful is literally the thing holding us back? Yeah, it turns out this relentless pursuit of the flawless ideal, it's not a superpower at all. Instead, it's actually this paralyzing force that keeps us stuck in place rather than moving forward. Let's look at exactly how this happens.
So ask yourself honestly right now, are you currently holding back on a project, maybe a difficult conversation or some brand new idea, just because you're waiting for the perfect moment to act? Man, it's an incredibly common feeling. Maybe you're waiting to feel 100% ready. Maybe you're endlessly tweaking a draft, obsessing over fonts, or waiting for the stars to align perfectly before you finally launch. We kind of trick ourselves into believing this waiting game is a strategic move, like, oh, if I wait, I'll ensure a way better outcome. But here's the reality. Waiting for the perfect moment is actually incredibly destructive. The perfect time simply doesn't exist, and waiting for it literally only guarantees that you stay exactly where you are.
And here is the gut punch reality, the core insight that changes how we need to look at this whole behavior. Perfectionism is an absolute recipe for anxiety, intense burnout, and even depression. Just think about the mechanics of this for a second. When you demand absolute perfection from yourself, you are putting your brain under this constant, crushing pressure to never, ever make a mistake. It's a totally impossible standard. Your mind is just constantly scanning for potential failures, overanalyzing every tiny detail, and worrying about how you'll be perceived. And that exhausting mental load, it drains your energy reserves so incredibly fast. The very thing you're using to try and achieve greatness is actually the exact mechanism grinding down your mental health and leading you straight into burnout.
Section 1. The Trap of Perfectionism. Okay, let's dive into this.
Because the core mechanism of this trap is that perfectionism keeps you constantly comparing yourself to others. When your focus is fixated on some impossible, flawless standard, you inevitably start looking outward, right? Just to see how you measure up. You look at your peers, your competitors, or those perfectly curated social media feeds, and you just see polished, finished products. The trap here is that you're comparing your messy, chaotic middle process to someone else's carefully edited highlight reel. And let me tell you, that is a game you will always, always lose. The direct result of this endless comparison? You just stop taking action. You become totally frozen by the fear of not measuring up to those polished end results, completely forgetting all the messy iterations and mistakes that actually took those people to get there in the first place.
Section 2. The Cost of Inaction.
Now, being frozen in place isn't just some harmless temporary pause. It triggers a really compounding chain reaction. It's basically a brutal domino effect. We start with that constant comparison, which leads directly to inaction. But it doesn't stop there. That inaction quickly morphs into chronic procrastination. Now, we often think of procrastination as just, being lazy or having bad time management. But psychologically speaking, procrastination driven by perfectionism is actually a defense mechanism. It's just your brain's way of avoiding the profound anxiety of potentially failing or producing something subpar. Because hey, if you never start, you can never fail, right? But ultimately, this protective inaction becomes the absolute root cause of missed opportunities and wasted potential. By trying so hard to be perfect, you're literally letting your time and your best opportunities slip right through your fingers.
Section 3. The Enemy of Innovation.
And this brilliantly illustrates how this paralyzed mindset directly suffocates our creative output. See, there's a fundamental conflict here between being perfect and being creative. I want you to think of perfectionism as a safety bubble mindset. When your main goal is a flawless result, you naturally become super risk-averse. You intentionally start picking safer, familiar options just so you can guarantee a win. But true creativity and innovation, they require a completely different approach, more of a rocket launch mindset. To innovate, you absolutely have to step into the unknown. Perfectionism fundamentally will not allow for creativity because it demands that you avoid failures and mishaps at all costs. So what happens? You end up trading a messy, groundbreaking innovation for a safe, predictable, and, let's be honest, pretty boring win.
The bottom line here is that genuine experimentation is completely impossible if you're scared of failure. Think of a chemistry lab, right? To discover a brand new formula, scientists know they have to mix volatile elements. They have to be willing to cause a few spills, trigger some bad reactions, maybe even break a few beakers along the way. If the scientist already knows exactly how a reaction is going to turn out before they even pour the liquids, well, it isn't an experiment at all, is it? It's just a demonstration. And that exact same logic applies to your work. To create something new, you have to be willing to break things, have mishaps, and yeah, maybe even look foolish for a minute.
Section 4. Progress over perfection.
All right, so there is this wonderfully grounding realization that helps shatter this whole illusion of perfection. It's this: even in the most incredible achievements, we can point out 10 flaws in their performance. Think about it. Olympic athletes, master artists, world-class leaders. Even on their absolute best day, if we look closely enough with a critical eye, we can easily find 10 things they did wrong. A slightly missed step, a brushstroke out of place, a poorly worded sentence. Flaws are utterly, completely inevitable for every single person on Earth, regardless of their skill level. So, if even the all-time greats are fundamentally flawed when you inspect them closely, pursuing an absolutely flawless project is literally a mathematical impossibility. So the crucial point is you have to make a massive shift in your mindset. We need to move away from this pass-fail mentality of perfectionism, where anything less than 100% is viewed as a total disaster. Instead, the goal is to focus entirely on progress. Stop judging the final polish and start tracking your momentum. Are you moving forward? Are you actually counting the lessons you've learned from your recent mistakes? Are you actively experimenting and, more importantly, recovering when things inevitably go wrong? You see, celebrating those small steps forward builds real psychological resilience. It allows you to stay in the game long enough to actually get good. That continuous forward motion, that is where real growth, lasting innovation, and honestly, true peace of mind are actually found.
We've seen exactly how demanding perfection traps us in this endless cycle of comparison, how it fuels that anxiety-driven procrastination, and how it actively kills our ability to be creative. So let's make a deal. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Take a look at whatever project is sitting on your desk right now, or whatever big idea has been floating around in your head, and ask yourself, what imperfect step will you take today? Drop the heavy burden of being flawless, embrace the inevitable mishaps, and let's start making some real progress.